We're too tired to babysit, my mom claimed, then took Jake's kids to a water park. Hope that slide was worth losing your house over, I replied, and canceled every payment. There are moments in life that flip a switch inside you. For me, it was a simple request, 1 hour. I had asked my parents, the people who are always saying, "We're here if you ever need anything," to help me for just 60 minutes. I had a final exam the next day, an exam that could determine whether I passed or failed my course, something I've been working toward for years. I'm a single mom, juggling full-time work and school, and doing my best to create a stable life for my son, Lucas. His father bailed before he ever took his first breath, and since day one, it's been just the two of us. I don't complain. I don't ask for favors. But that day, that one day, I genuinely needed help. Lucas's regular babysitter had a personal emergency and had to cancel at the last minute. I was panicking. I called friends, even a neighbor or two, but nobody was free. Then I remembered my parents. They live just 15 minutes away. They're both retired. They've always liked to say, "You know you can call us if you're in a pinch." So I did. I called. I explained the situation calmly. Me, "Hey, I have a really important exam tomorrow. Could you watch Lucas for just an hour?" Mom, "Oh, sweetheart, we really wish we could, but we're just so busy tomorrow." That answer caught me off guard. Me, "Busy? Doing what?" Mom, "We're just so tired lately. We'd planned to take it easy, get some rest. Maybe Jake can help." Jake, my younger brother, the one who's never lifted a finger to help anyone outside his own bubble, the one whose wife does all the parenting while he zones out with a game controller in hand. Still, out of desperation, I asked him. Predictably, he was busy too. No help from anyone. Eventually, I begged one of my classmates to swap exam slots with me. It was messy, stressful, but I made it work. Barely. I walked out of that exam feeling completely drained, emotionally and physically. The next day, just as I was catching my breath, I received a message from my cousin. Cousin, "Hey, saw your parents at Splash Cove with Jake's kids. Didn't know you were coming too." I read it again. I thought I was hallucinating. These were the same people who told me they were too exhausted to watch Lucas for 1 hour. And now they had driven 2 full hours out of town just to take Jake's kids to a water park? I saw red. I was shaking as I called my mom. Me, "So, you couldn't babysit Lucas yesterday, but you had energy today to drive across the state and spend a whole day with Jake's kids at a water park?" There was a long pause. Then came the usual dance. Excuses, guilt, and gaslighting. Mom, "Oh, honey, please don't be like that." Me, "Like what?" Mom, "Jake's kids barely ever get to go out. We just wanted to do something fun for them." Me, "And what about my son? Doesn't he matter? Or is Lucas somehow less deserving?" Mom, "That's not fair. You always think we favor Jake." "That's not true." I let out a bitter laugh. Me, "Then help me understand this. When I needed 1 hour, you were too tired. But you found the strength to plan a whole day trip for Jake's kids? Don't insult my intelligence." The conversation spiraled into more justifications, twisted narratives, and an attempt to make me feel like I was being unreasonable. But something in me had shifted. That phone call made everything clear. I hung up, and that night I made a decision. I was done. Done pretending not to notice the favoritism I'd lived under my entire life. Done letting them treat Lucas like he was invisible, like his needs were somehow optional. And you know what else? For the last 4 years, I had been sending my parents $300 every month to help with their expenses. It wasn't a fortune, but it mattered. They depended on it. I gave it without hesitation because they always claimed to be struggling, and I wanted to support them. I really did. But after this, not anymore. I stopped the payments. I blocked their calls. For the first time in years, I gave them nothing. Not my money, not my emotional energy, not my attention. Silence. And then, 3 months later, the inevitable happened. I got a voicemail from my mom. Her voice on the voicemail was trembling. "Mom, sweetheart, we need to talk. We didn't get your transfer this month and, well, things are getting really tight. Please call me back." I didn't. A few days later, she tried again. This time I picked up. Mom, why haven't you sent the money? Me. I've been busy. She hesitated. Mom, busy? Me. Yeah, kind of like how you were too tired to help me with Lucas that day. Silence, cold and heavy. She began to fumble through her words. Mom. Oh, honey, we didn't know you were still upset about that. Me. I'm not upset. I just finally learned something valuable. To invest my time, my energy, and my money in the people who show me that I matter. There was a long pause. Then she played her favorite card. Mom. But we're family. I let that line sit there for a second, like a bad joke with no punchline. Me. Are we really? Or is that just something you say when you want something from me? That hit a nerve. She exploded, shouting, accusing me of being selfish, dramatic, and vengeful. She insisted I was blowing things out of proportion, punishing them over a minor miscommunication. I didn't argue. I let her vent. I let her wear herself out. And when she finally ran out of steam, I responded, not with anger, but with a calm, even voice. Me. I'm just doing what you taught me, Mom. You showed me how to treat family. I'm just following your example. Then I ended the call. Weeks went by. Then I started hearing whispers. Not from them, of course, but through the family grapevine. Apparently, after I stopped sending money, they turned to Jake. But here's the twist. Jake said no. Turns out he and his wife were having financial issues of their own. 2 kids, rising daycare costs, bills piling up. They simply couldn't help. And just like that, my parents were out of options. That's when the real games began. After that last call with my mom, I expected a full-scale guilt campaign. Angry messages, emotional blackmail, maybe even a surprise visit. But instead, nothing. No drama, just silence. A day passed, then another, a week, 2. It felt strange at first. They had always been in the background, not exactly supportive, but always present in their own critical, dismissive way. Cutting them off was like removing a splinter you'd forgotten was there. Painful for a moment, but suddenly you can move freely again. I felt lighter, freer, but I also knew this wasn't over. My parents weren't the type to quietly accept consequences. They'd circle back eventually, and sure enough, about a month later, my phone lit up. It wasn't my mother this time. It was Jake. I stared at his name for a long moment. We were never particularly close, not because of any big blow-up, but because we'd always lived in different worlds. Jake was the baby of the family, the golden boy. If anything ever got hard, someone else always picked up the pieces for him. I let the call go to voicemail. Then a text came in. Jake, hey, can we talk? It's important. I waited an hour before replying. Me, what do you want? Seconds later, my phone rang again. I sighed and answered. Me, what now, Jake? Jake, wow. Okay, you're still mad, huh? Me, not mad. Just busy. Jake, right. Well, I wouldn't bother you if it wasn't serious. Me, then get to the point. He hesitated. Then Jake, Mom and Dad, they're in trouble. Financial trouble. Like serious. They're way behind on the mortgage. They might lose the house. There it was. Jake, they asked me for money, but... Me, but you told them no. Jake, yeah, I mean, we're barely holding it together ourselves. 2 kids. Daycare's a nightmare. We've got bills too. Me, so you came to me. The backup plan. Jake, well, you were helping them, right? I let out an actual laugh. Me, you do realize they did this to themselves, right? Jake, come on, they're still our parents. Me, were they acting like parents when they left me stranded over a final exam? When they chose your kids over mine? Jake, wait, what? I gave him the short version. How I had asked for 1 hour of help. How they'd refused only to spend the next day at a water park with his kids. How they gaslit me when I confronted them. How I pulled the plug, emotionally, financially, completely. When I finished, Jake was quiet for a while. Then finally, Jake, yeah, that sounds like them. Me, so now you understand why this isn't my problem. Jake, But they might lose the house. Me. Then that's their consequence to carry. Jake. So you're just going to let it happen? Me. Absolutely. 2 days passed. Then another call. This time from my mother. But she didn't sound angry. She sounded hollow, fragile. Mom. Sweetheart, please, we're lost. We don't know what to do anymore. Me. Maybe ask Jake's kids. I thought they were the priority. Mom. That's not fair. Me. Neither was leaving me hanging when I needed you most. Mom. We didn't know you were that upset. Me. You knew. You just didn't care enough. She started crying. Mom. We might have to move. We don't have anywhere else to go. I don't know what we're going to do. I sighed, and for a moment, just a moment, I felt the pull. That familiar ache, the part of me that remembered what it was like to struggle, to be desperate, to need help and find none. The memories came flooding in, not in a dramatic wave, but like small cuts that had never quite healed. I thought about all those times I had no one to lean on, when I was left to carry the weight of everything on my own because that's just what I did. I remembered the birthdays they forgot, the emergencies I faced alone, the sacrifices I made that no one ever noticed. I was never the one they rushed to support. I was the fallback plan, the strong one, the one who'd figure it out without help. I had always been the afterthought, the support beam, never the one anyone protected. So when I ended that last call with, I hope it works out for you, I meant it, not with bitterness, but with a tired kind of resolve. I hung up thinking that was the end. I believed that maybe, just maybe, this would be the turning point that made them pause and reflect. That maybe now they'd finally realize how deeply they'd hurt me. But my parents weren't finished, not yet. Exactly 2 weeks later, a plain envelope showed up in my mailbox. No handwritten address, just something cold and typed. Formal. I opened it absent-mindedly, expecting a bill, maybe a late notice. But as my eyes hit the first few lines, I froze. It was a letter from a lawyer. I flipped through the pages in disbelief, my pulse thudding in my ears. I kept thinking there had to be a mistake, some clerical error. But no, there it was, spelled out in stiff legal language. My parents were suing me. I stared at the document, numb. My parents, the people who raised me, were taking legal action against their own daughter. For what? As I combed through the confusing legalese, one section finally made everything clear, and it made my stomach churn. They were claiming that the financial help I'd given them over the years, the monthly deposits, the quiet lifelines I never made a fuss about, constituted a verbal agreement. According to their lawyer, I had entered into an informal contract by giving them money consistently, and now they were demanding the court force me to continue. Indefinitely. They wanted to make my kindness a legal obligation. They weren't asking for help. They were trying to own it. This wasn't just sad or desperate. This was hostile, strategic, cold. It wasn't a cry for support. It was a declaration of war. I didn't bother texting or calling. I didn't need clarification. I needed confrontation. I got in my car and drove straight to their house, fury building with every turn. When my mother opened the door, she smiled like I was the prodigal daughter returning in shame. Mom. Oh, sweetheart. I knew you'd come around. Me. Are you two out of your goddamn minds? Her face fell. She hadn't expected that. My father emerged from the hallway, already annoyed. Dad. You better watch your tone. Me. My tone? You're suing your own daughter and I'm the one who needs to mind my manners? Mom. We didn't want it to come to this, but you gave us no other choice. Me. You always had a choice. You chose betrayal. When I needed you most, you turned your back. And now you want to punish me for setting boundaries? Dad. We relied on that money. We budgeted around it. We were counting on you. Me. That's your issue, not mine. Mom. You can't just walk away from family like this. Me. And yet you walked away from me long before I ever stopped helping. You just assumed I'd never stop. The room fell silent. She couldn't argue with that. I looked at them exhausted. Me. Drop the lawsuit. Dad. We will, if you agree to resume financial support. I actually laughed. Me. You're in no position to negotiate. You're sinking, and you're trying to pull me down with you. You think you have leverage? Let's take this to court then. Let's see how a judge reacts to two parents trying to legally bind their daughter into being their personal wallet. Their silence was answer enough. My mother's eyes welled up again. Mom, we're going to lose everything. Me. You should have thought about that before you made me feel like I was worthless. I turned, walked out, and didn't look back. They didn't stop me this time. A week later, I met with a lawyer of my own. She read through the lawsuit, set the papers down, and chuckled. Lawyer, this won't hold up. Not even close. For a verbal agreement to be legally valid, they'd need undeniable proof that you explicitly committed to lifelong payments. And from what you're telling me, that never happened. She sent them a cease and desist letter the next day, along with a warning. If they didn't drop this, we'd countersue for emotional distress and harassment. They folded within 48 hours. Just like that, the case vanished, and with it, any illusion of a relationship. For the first time, it was over. Or so I thought. A month later, my phone rang again. It was my cousin. Cousin. Hey, did you hear about your parents? Me. What now? Cousin. They sold the house. They were days away from foreclosure. They're moving in with Jake. My heart skipped, and then I laughed, loudly, bitterly. The same Jake who claimed he couldn't afford to help. The same Jake who ignored them when they needed him. Now, they were his burden, his reality check, his lesson. I hung up, glanced at Lucas playing on the floor, his laughter filling the room, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. Real, deep relief. For the first time in my life, I felt truly free. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that I had made the right choice. But fate wasn't done having its fun. A few weeks after the move, my phone lit up again. It was Jake. I didn't answer. Then came a message. Jake, call me. It's important. I ignored it. An hour later, the phone rang again. I answered, more out of curiosity than concern. Me. What? Jake. You have to take them back. I nearly spit out my drink. Me. Excuse me? Jake. Mom and Dad, you have to take them. I can't handle this. They're impossible. I leaned back, barely hiding my amusement. Me. Wait, you said you couldn't afford to help them, but now they're living with you. Isn't that what they wanted? Jake. They're driving us insane. Oh, I'm sure they're just delightful guests, I said dryly, unable to hide the sarcasm in my voice. Jake. It's been a nightmare. They complain constantly. They hate the groceries we buy, take over the living room like it's theirs, and Mom keeps guilt-tripping my wife about not doing enough for them. And Dad? Dad keeps trying to discipline my kids like he's the head of the house. I couldn't help but smirk. Me. Wow, who could have predicted that? Jake. You don't get it. Me. Oh, trust me, I do. You're just now getting your first taste of what I lived with for decades. Jake. Please, I need you to take them in. Just for a while. Me. Absolutely not. Jake. Come on. You know how difficult they can be? Me. Exactly. That's why I cut them off. And then something unexpected happened. Jake began to beg. Truly begin. Not just asking. Pleading. Jake. Look, I get it now, okay? I see it. They always treated you like crap. I didn't understand before, but I do now. It's obvious. But please. I'm losing my mind. I can't do this anymore. I let his words hang in the air for a few seconds. Then I responded, completely calm and detached. Me. That sounds like a you problem. Click. I hung up. Over the next month, I didn't hear much from Jake directly, but the updates trickled in through our cousin, and every one of them was glorious. Apparently, Jake and his wife were unraveling. Fast. Mom was still playing queen victim, demanding to be treated like royalty while simultaneously treating Jake's wife like a live-in maid. Dad had taken it upon himself to become the man of the house, barking orders, criticizing the kids, trying to parent like it was still 1995, and he hadn't burned every ounce of respect he once had. Every day in that house had turned into a battlefield. Tension, arguments, misery. Until one day Jake hit his limit. No warning, no discussion. He packed their things, tossed them into the car, and dropped them off at a budget motel. Just like that. Then my phone rang. Again. This time my mom wasn't just crying. She was full-blown hysterical. Mom, Jake abandoned us. He left us with nothing. We have nowhere to go. Me. Wow, that must be a terrible feeling. Mom, we're going to be homeless. Me. That's rough. Mom, please, we'll do anything. Just let us stay, just for a little while. I took in a slow, steady breath. I felt nothing. No rage, no guilt, just peace. Me. You made your choices. Mom. But we're family. Me. No, we're not. And I ended the call, permanently. That was the last time I ever spoke to them. They had no savings, no home, no friends or relatives left who were willing to step in. For years, they had treated me like a backup plan, their emotional punching bag and financial crutch. They believed I'd always be there, no matter how deep they cut me. They were wrong. When the moment finally came where they had to answer for their own decisions, for the way they treated the people around them, there was no one left to shield them from the fallout. They had burned every bridge, and I wasn't going to build them a new one. They had lost their safety net because I had stopped being it. Meanwhile, Lucas and I were thriving. I had gotten a promotion at work, moved us into a brighter, safer neighborhood, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was dragging a mountain behind me everywhere I went. Jake and I don't speak anymore. I assume he's still licking the wounds from the disaster he volunteered for. As for my parents, last I heard they were bouncing between dingy motels and weekly rate extended stays, barely scraping by, still entitled, still bitter, still wondering how this all happened. Do I feel bad? Not at all. Because when someone shows you exactly how little you matter to them, believe them the first time.